The pen my son used to fake concern was still warm when he said, "Stop acting rich, Mom." As I laid the account folder flat, I didn't speak, I just watched him calculate my silence. While he spun my chair like he owned the room, the banker stepped in without a smile. The same man who buried his fathers will now look straight past him, eyes only on me. That's when he said, "Ma'am, your son will need to wait outside." So I let the door close behind him and signed everything in my name, not his. We're about to begin, but if you'd like, share where you're joining from. It reminds me this story doesn't echo into silence, it lands somewhere real. Drop it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. The first time my son called me embarrassing, it happened over a plate of pasta I couldn't even pronounce. We were at this sleek place downtown, glass walls, concrete floors, plants hanging from the ceiling like they were curated. The kind of restaurant where they don't bring you bread unless you ask, and the water comes in a bottle with a logo. Jason glanced around like he was calculating the cost per square foot. "You really like these places, huh, Mom?" "I like good food," I said, "and it's close to my bank. I had a meeting with Alan this afternoon." Dana smiled at me, that soft, polished smile she always wears in public. "It's beautiful in here, Maggie, very high-end." She said it kindly, but there was a tiny wrinkle between her brows, the one she gets when she's doing mental math. Lucas sat next to me, hunched slightly in his hoodie, eyes tracking the open kitchen. Flames flashed, plates were wiped with sauces like paint. "It looks like a TV show," he muttered, "but no one's pretending." I like that he noticed. The waiter came, gave us the full performance about seasonal menus and locally sourced everything. Dana nodded along like she understood every reference. Jason never really looked at him, his eyes were on the prices. We ordered. I didn't go crazy, but I didn't pretend to be poor either. I stopped pretending a long time ago. Dinner itself was good. Dana kept the conversation light. Lucas's school, Jason's work, some coworker who just bought a boat. Every now and then she'd say, "We're just simple people," like it was a brand. Jason's phone buzzed twice. He checked it both times, face flickering with annoyance. "So you're still going to that private bank, right?" he asked me suddenly. "The one with the concierge floor?" "Yes," I said. "Alan handles my accounts, it's convenient." "Yeah," he muttered, mostly to his plate. "Convenient." Dessert menus came. The waiter asked, should I bring one check or split it? Before anyone else spoke, I did what I have done for decades. I reached for my purse. "I've got this," I said. "You all came downtown for me." It was automatic, natural. I didn't make a speech, didn't wave my card around, I just held it out. Jason's head snapped up so fast the air seemed to shift. "Mom, stop acting rich in front of people," he said. The words weren't loud, but they landed like a dropped glass. The waiter froze, card machine in hand, eyes darting between us. Dana let out a bright, stiff laugh. "Jason," she said, lightly scolding, "he's kidding. He just hates money being a big show, that's all." He wasn't kidding. I've listened to my son lie enough times to recognize when he's telling the truth. "I'm not acting," I said quietly. My voice came out steady, too steady. I held my card out to the waiter. He took it like it might burn him. "On this, please," I said. He nodded quickly and walked away. Lucas shifted beside me. "Grandma always pays," he said, barely above a whisper. "It's normal." Jason shot him a look. "Lucas, enough." Lucas lowered his eyes, but his knee bumped mine under the table, a small, wordless apology for something that wasn't his fault. As we waited, my mind drifted, not away from the moment, but underneath it. "Acting rich. I saw the cheap desk I bought after your father died, Jason. The one I dragged into a rented warehouse that smelled like dust and oil. I saw myself signing loan documents with your picture in my wallet, my hand shaking but my name still landing straight on the line. I saw you asleep on an office couch at 8 years old while I argued with vendors, begged banks, and pretended I wasn't terrified. I didn't act rich, I survived poor." The waiter returned, setting the check in front of me with a careful, "Thank you, Ms. Leland." He knew my name. A lot of people in this city do, not because I married well, because I built something that mattered. I signed, added a generous tip, and closed the folder. Outside, the night air was sharp, the river dark and clean under the city lights. We could have split it like normal people, Jason said as we stepped out. You don't always have to perform. You invited me, I said. I chose the place, that's all. He scoffed, yeah, you're world right. Dana slipped her arm through his. Babe, drop it. It's fine. Lucas hovered for a second, then moved closer to me. Can I ride with you, Grandma? He asked. That more than anything made Jason's jaw tight. Of course, I said. As we walked toward my car, I could feel my son's anger at my back, hot, childish, hungry. I didn't know it yet, but that one small sentence tossed out over a dinner I paid for was the first crack in something I had spent my whole life building. A week after that dinner, my money greeted me before my password did. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the same way I'd sat at a plastic desk in a rented warehouse 30 years earlier, coffee to the right, pen to the left, focus straight ahead. I clicked the bookmark for my investment dashboard, expecting the usual prompt. Instead, the site opened, just opened. No password, no two-factor, just numbers. Top right corner. Welcome back, Margaret. Last login, yesterday, 9:17 p.m. Chrome on macOS. I blinked. Yesterday at 9 I was in pajamas, half watching a crime show, and I don't own a Mac. I clicked into the activity log, 1 portfolio overview generated, 2 reports downloaded, estate summary exported. The skin at the back of my neck went cold. There was only one Mac in this family that wasn't issued by a high school. Jason S. I picked up my phone and called before I could talk myself out of it. Hey Mom, he answered. Office noise buzzed behind him. What's up? Did you log into my investment account last night? I asked, around 9. A short silence, then a laugh that was half air, half acting. What? No, why would I do that? The system says someone did, I said, on a Mac, several documents downloaded. Those logs are never accurate, he said quickly. You probably clicked something without realizing, or your banker did some maintenance. Don't start getting paranoid, okay? There it was, the word men keep ready for any woman who notices too much. I don't give my password to my banker, I said, and I didn't click anything. His tone sharpened. Well, I don't have it, and even if I did, I'd just be checking things are in order. That's called being a responsible son. You're sure you didn't log in? I asked. Mom, he said, annoyed now. I said no, you really need to stop assuming everyone's out to get you, it makes you sound. He cut himself off, but I heard the word anyway. Slipping. Enjoy your day, Jason, I said and ended the call. The quiet of my condo pressed in, thick and deliberate. I stared at the screen again, nothing missing, no transfers, no withdrawals, just information taken, a map of the kingdom, not the gold. I picked up the landline and called Carla. She listened without interrupting, then said very calmly, it's time to protect yourself. I checked, I said, everything's still there. For now, she replied. Maggie, this is how it starts. People like Jason don't grab, they circle, they gather data, they build a justification. Silence is not respect, it just tells him you're safe to push. I pressed my thumb into the table edge. So what do I do? Review every account, she said. Change every password, then call that banker of yours, Alan, tell him you want protections. Jason can't charm his way around. After we hung up, I combed through the dashboard again, slower this time. Recent documents glared back at me, comprehensive portfolio overview, estate allocations, liquidity projections. Someone was studying my life like a project. My phone buzzed. Dana. Hey Maggie, smiling face with smiling eyes. Jason said you called worried. He's just trying to help with your long-term planning now that you're retired. He's being responsible. Don't be upset, we all just want you safe and secure. Not once did she say he didn't do it. I put the phone down without replying and pulled a business card from my drawer, heavy white stock, clean font. Alan Hodge, Private Wealth Management. I dialed his direct line. Alan speaking. Alan, it's Margaret Leland, I said. My voice surprised me, quiet but solid. I need to see you. Of course, he replied. We can arrange a call. No, I said, not a call. I want to come in person. A beat of understanding passed through the silence. I'll clear my afternoon, he said. As I ended the call, I looked back at the glowing numbers on my screen and finally admitted the truth I'd been dodging. My son wasn't just embarrassed by my wealth anymore. He was circling it. Brunch is where people pretend nothing is wrong. That's what I reminded myself as I sat at a crowded spot in River North, exposed brick, hanging plants, young couples photographing their pancakes like evidence of happiness. Jason had picked the place, which meant he wanted to be seen. Reset, Dana had said on the phone, fresh start, no big money talk. Which in my experience guaranteed big money talk. Jason sat where he could see the whole room, phone face down but never far. Dana was across from him, cream sweater, hair just so. Lucas slid into the seat beside me, smellin' faintly of soap and pencil shavings, hands in his hoodie pocket. The waiter approached, pad ready, eyes a little anxious the way they always are around brunch crowds. Jason grinned at him, leaning back. We'll do coffees all around, orange juice for him. He jerked his chin at Lucas, and my mom will probably have like 20 questions. Don't mind her, she still acts like she runs a company. The joke landed with a soft thud. The waiter's eyes flicked to me, unsure whether to laugh. I smiled. Black coffee, I said, in the vegetable omelet, no toast. Yes, ma'am, he said quickly. I felt Jason watching me, waiting for a flare of temper to confirm whatever story he'd told himself about me. I did run a company, I said mildly, unfolding my napkin. Acting was never part of it. He shrugged. I just mean you don't have to interrogate people anymore, you're retired. Dana jumped in, smoothing the air. He's teasing, Maggie. He used to complain you were always in some board meeting. I looked at Jason. You complained, I said, then you enjoyed the plane tickets. Lucas's mouth twitched. He looked down but his shoulders tipped slightly toward me. The waiter left with our order and for a minute the table did what families do, skated on small talk, school projects, weather, a show everyone pretended to like. Then Jason cleared his throat. So, he said too casually, did you talk to that banker of yours yet, Alan? There it was. Yes, I said, we met. How'd that go? His tone stayed light but his eyes sharpened. I still think I should sit in sometime just to make sure they're not taking advantage, some older clients. Jason, Dana cut in, smile fixed, you promised no shop talk today. I kept my gaze on him. Alan and I reviewed my protections, I said. I invited him to stop by, actually. Dana blinked. You what? He was at the branch nearby, I said, checking my phone. I told him if he had 10 minutes he should swing through. Jason's jaw tightened. Mom, seriously, this is brunch, it's weird. You're worried about my money, I said calmly. He's worried about my money, better everyone hear the same words. Dana's hand tightened around her mimosa glass. You didn't have to drag him into this. I didn't drag anyone, I replied. I hired him, there's a difference. As if on cue, the host appeared at the edge of the table, Alan just behind him. He looked exactly as he had in his office, dark suit, quiet tie, watch that whispered instead of shouted, completely at ease among the avocado toast. Ms. Leland, he said warmly, good to see you in daylight. He held out his hand to me first, and for a beat, the restaurant noise slipped into the background. Alan, I said standing, thank you for coming. He turned to Jason and Dana. You must be Jason, and Dana, I've heard about you both for years. Jason scrambled for composure. All good things, I hope. Alan smiled. Your mother is results-oriented. She doesn't waste time on gossip. Dana gave a bright little laugh, then overcompensated. Thank you for taking such good care of her. We just want to be sure she's supported. She makes my job easy, Alan said. I don't often have clients who read every line I send. Jason went quiet. We all sat again. Alan leaned slightly toward the table, respectful but not deferential. I won't keep you, he said. But Margaret, I did want to mention those adjustments we made this week, if you're comfortable with me sharing in front of your family. Yes, I said, please. We've reduced exposure to some of the more volatile sectors and leaned back into the logistics and infrastructure funds you helped seed, he said. They're outperforming indexes and they match your long-term goals better. Wait, Jason said, you pulled her out of tech, that's where the real growth is. In some contexts, Alan agreed smoothly. But your mother's not chasing speculative growth. Her priority is preserving and directing an estate according to her wishes. Different objective, different strategy. The word estate hung over the table. We're coordinating with her attorney on the trust structures we discussed, he added, glancing at me. Once signed, those will keep things very clean after. We're not in a rush, I said, holding his gaze, but I don't like loose ends. Jason's fingers curled around his water glass. That's wise, Alan said simply. He checked his watch. I'll let you get back to your meal, Margaret. I'll send updated summaries this afternoon. Thank you, I said, and thank you for stopping by. He nodded to the others. Good to finally meet you, Lucas, he added. Your grandmother's one of my sharpest clients. Lucas looked from Alan to me. I know, he said softly. When the check came, I didn't hesitate. I placed my card down, tipped generously, and stood. I'll see you all outside, I said. As I walked toward the door, I could feel Jason's stare on my back, hot, unsettled, and suddenly, finally, aware that I was no longer the only one being managed. For the first time, I wondered, when he realized he couldn't steer my money, what would he try to steer next? Carla's condo door was already open when I stepped off the elevator, like she'd been standing there with her hand on the knob. You're early, she said. That means you're either scared or serious. Which is it? Serious, I said. Scared can come later. Good, she stepped aside. Come in, sit, ruin my Saturday. Her place looked like a CFO's mind, neat, spare, nothing extra. The dining table was covered in neatly stacked folders, yellow pads, and 2 pens lined up like soldiers. She poured me coffee and slid a mug over. So, how badly did your son behave this time? Badly enough that Alan used the word estate at brunch and Jason almost swallowed his tongue, I said. I'm done letting him treat my life like a pending promotion. Carla's mouth twitched, music to my ears. What do you want to do? I want to redo everything, I said. Will, directives, anything with Jason's name on it gets reconsidered. She didn't blink. Okay, we're not patching, we're rebuilding. I know an estate attorney who specializes in modern entitlement. Adults, kids, lawsuits, the whole zoo. You'll like him, he doesn't flinch. She wrote a name and number, tore the page off, and pushed it to me. But first, she said, flipping to a clean sheet, we list everything, no false modesty, no oh, it's not that much. What do you own? I told her. The brokerage accounts, the retirement funds, the cash. Then the building my old company still leases, the stake I still hold, the patents, the Michigan cabin, the storage units with equipment that technically still has resale value, the Lincoln Park house I never talk about because people get weird when they realize you don't have to choose between views. Her pen scratched steadily across the page. He doesn't know about half of this, she said. He knows I'm comfortable, I replied. He just thinks comfortable means waiting for him to take over. Carla flipped to a new page. All right, distribution, who gets what? Nothing goes to Jason directly, I said. Saying it out loud felt like snapping a wire that had been wrapped around my ribs for years. She nodded once, no drama, so who does? Lucas, in stages, with someone between him and his parents. Trust structure, she said, writing, age milestones, independent trustee, Alan's firm can do that. And I want a fund, I added. Grants for women over 50 who want to start something, no pitch decks, just real plans and mentorship. Carla's eyes warmed. There's my Maggie. We moved on to the ugly questions. Power of attorney, she asked. Who has it now? I exhaled. Jason, from 10 years ago, before I understood that love and access aren't the same thing. We change that, she said. Financial goes to the trust company. Medical, she looked up. Someone who won't crumble if Jason gets loud. I thought of Lucas's uncertain face, the way he still glanced at his parents before speaking. Not him, not yet. I met her eyes. You for now. She actually looked surprised. Lucky me. We both smiled, but it sat on top of something heavier. By the time we finished, Carla had a tidy stack of notes. She spun her laptop around so I could see the draft language she'd already started for the attorney. One line was bolded, set off by itself. Excluded due to undue pressure and lack of respect. I read it twice. It didn't feel cruel. It felt like labeling a file correctly so no one misfiled it later. He's going to lose his mind if he ever sees that, Carla said quietly. If I corrected, this isn't a show, it's a boundary. She walked me to the door, hand resting lightly on my arm. You know this is going to change your relationship with him. I thought of Jason's face at brunch when Alan said the word estate, of Dana's smile slipping, of Luca's saying, I know. It already has, I said. Out in the hallway, I tucked the attorney's number and Carla's notes into my bag, close to my side. Jason still believed he was slowly moving into my position, power of attorney, grieving son, inevitable heir. He had no idea that by the time he tried to step into my place, there'd be nothing there for him but a locked door and his own name on the outside. Alan's building has the kind of lobby that teaches people to whisper. Marble, glass, a security desk that looks like it belongs in a museum. I'd walked through it for years, always as someone who belonged there. Good morning, Ms. Leland, the guard said, up to 14. Yes, thank you. I rode the elevator up, Carla's notes and draft documents heavy in my bag. When the doors opened onto the private banking floor, I heard his voice before I saw him. She's just not as sharp with this stuff anymore. I'm helping her transition everything smoothly. Jason. The reception area was quiet, soft carpet, abstract art. At the front desk, Jason leaned on the counter in his navy blazer, wedding ring flashing as he gestured. The young receptionist sat ramrod straight, trying to stay neutral. I'm her son, Jason was saying. You can loop me in, it's just responsible planning. Mrs. Leland, I said. Jason turned. For a second his expression stuttered, caught, annoyed, then smiling. Mom, hey, perfect timing, he said. I came early to brief Alan, help frame things, saves you some stress. The receptionist's eyes met mine. Relief flickered there. Good morning, Ms. Leland, he said. Mr. Hodge is expecting you. I didn't realize you and Mr. Leland were together. We're not, I said. Jason laughed too loudly. We just got crossed wires. She told me she was coming in. I thought I'd swing by, be helpful. How did you know what time I was coming? I asked. He shrugged. I called his office, said I'm helping you with your affairs as you get older. People appreciate an involved son. There it was, the story, aging mother, selfless caretaker. Alan's door opened. He stepped out, tablet in hand, face composed. He took us all in with one glance, receptionist, Jason, me. Margaret, he said, right on time. To Jason, and you must be Mr. Leland. Jason moved in with his best handshake. Jason, I figured I'd sit in, help translate some of the technical stuff. She can get turned around with legal language. Alan looked at me, not him. Margaret, would you like your son to join us? Carla's sentence flashed in my head. Silence is not respect. No, I said I wouldn't. Jason's smile thinned. Mom, don't start. This is exactly what we've talked about, me helping. You don't have to make a scene. I'm answering a question, I replied. He turned to Alan, expecting backup. I have power of attorney. I'm involved whether I'm in the room or not. Alan's voice stayed calm. Mr. Leland, your mother's documents were updated last week. Per her instructions, I am not authorized to disclose any information to you. Jason blinked. That can't be right. I've had POA for years. And now you don't, Alan said simply. We follow the most recent valid directives. The receptionist stared very hard at his screen. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang and stopped. Jason swung back to me, color rising in his face. You changed it without telling me. I picked up my bag. I changed it because you told other people I wasn't sharp. Alan stepped slightly aside, creating a clear path to his office. Mr. Leland, he said, still perfectly professional, I'm going to have to ask you to leave this floor. This is a private client meeting. If your mother wishes you present in the future, she can authorize that in writing. You're siding with her over her own family, Jason said through his teeth. Alan didn't blink. I'm following my client's instructions. Jason looked at me, eyes hot, jaw tight in that familiar boyish way. I was just trying to help you. For years, that sentence would have been my cue to back down. Not anymore. You assumed wrong, I said. The words were soft, but they settled between us like a signed order. He searched my face for the old version of me, the one who would protect him from embarrassment even when he'd caused mine. She was gone. Without another word, he turned and stalked to the elevator. The doors closed on his reflection, small in the polished steel. Alan exhaled once. "Shall we, Margaret?" I walked past the reception desk, into the office my son thought he'd stroll into one day as if it were his by default. As Alan closed the door behind us, one thought cut through everything else. If Jason was willing to rewrite my story to strangers, I'd just shown him the first place he'd never get to rewrite the ending. The air in the parking garage felt colder than the lobby, all concrete and echo. I just clicked my key fob when a figure stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. "Mom." "Jason." He was leaning against my driver's side door like he owned it, blazer open, tie gone, jaw tight. "You followed me," I said. "I waited," he shot back. "Since your banker had security throw me out, I figured this was the only place I'd actually get to talk to you." I stopped a few feet away. The overhead lights carved hard lines into his face. "There's nothing left to discuss," I said. "You made your intentions pretty clear upstairs." "My intentions?" His laugh bounced off the ceiling. "My intention is to keep you from getting ripped off. You stood there and acted like I'm some stranger off the street." "You introduced yourself as if you were managing me," I replied. "I treated you accordingly." He pushed Ed off the car, pacing a tight line. "I'm your son, do you hear yourself? You just let that guy talk to me like I'm nobody." "You did that," I said quietly, "when you told his staff I wasn't as sharp anymore." His mouth twisted. "I never said that. I said you get overwhelmed with details. I said I was helping you transition. That's what adults do when their parents are aging, Mom. It's called being responsible." "No," I said, "it's called rewriting someone without their consent." His pacing stopped. "Why are you shutting me out? Why are you treating me like a stranger?" I finished for him. "You made yourself one the moment you started circling my name like a hawk." He frowned. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you stopped visiting as my son and started circling as if I were inventory," I said. "Your tone, your questions, logging into my accounts behind my back, showing up at my banker's office uninvited. That's not concern, that's position jockeying." He raked a hand through his hair. "This is Dana," he snapped. "She's the one panicking about what happens if I'm trying to keep her calm. She just wants security." "Security is not entitlement," I said. "She doesn't get to decide my life is her safety net." He stepped closer, anger bright in his eyes. "So what, you cut me out of everything after everything I've done for you?" "What have you done for me?" I asked. "Specifically list it." He opened his mouth, struggled, then fell back on the old script. "I'm your son. I'm supposed to be in the loop. I have a right to know what happens if something happens to you." "You don't have a right," I said. "You have a relationship. You're burning it." I unlocked the car and opened the door. He slapped a hand on the frame, leaning down to block me. "You changed power of attorney," he said, voice low. "You changed everything. Who even has it now? That banker, Carla? Are you serious?" "You've lost the privilege of that information," I said, settling into the seat. He shifted to the window as I pulled the door shut, forearms resting on the glass. "You don't get to just cut me out," he said, words speeding up. "I'm not some vendor you can drop. You can't just—" The engine hummed to life. I pressed the window button. His voice kept coming as the glass climbed. "Ignore me, Mom. I swear to God if you drive off right now, this isn't over. I will." The window sealed with a soft click. I could still see his mouth moving, his hand hitting the glass once, twice, but all I heard was the muffled thud. We stared at each other through the pane for a long second, him furious and exposed under the harsh lights, me surrounded by quiet. Then I eased the car into reverse. He had to step back or get hit. He stepped back. He didn't follow. At home, the condo felt unnaturally still. I went straight to the bedroom closet, pulled down the small black lockbox I'd bought the day before and set it on the bed. Into it went copies of the new trust, the updated will, Carla's memo, a flash drive with encrypted backups, and one typed page labeled instructions. Call Carla Monroe. Call Ellen Hodge. Do not sign or share anything with Jason Leland. I read it once, folded it on top, then slid the box onto the top shelf behind an old overnight bag. My phone lit up on the nightstand. Jason, then Dana, then unknown. I let each call die in silence. Standing in the dim closet doorway, I realized something simple and terrifying. If my son couldn't get to my future through charm and assumption, he'd look for another door. And for the first time in my life, I was ready to meet him there, with every lock already turned from my side. Carla doesn't call before 10 unless something's on fire. It was 8:12. You decent, she said when I answered. I'm old, not naked, I replied. What's wrong? Your son discovered my number works, she said. He called me last night. I sat down at the kitchen table. What did he want? He asked, she said, voice going dry, if I'd noticed any changes in your cognitive health. For a second, all I heard was the clock on the wall. Of course he did, I said. And then, she went on, he suggested someone might be influencing you, maybe even you, Carla, like he was auditioning for a documentary. I let out a small, humorless laugh. What did you tell him? I told him I've known your mind longer than he's known his, she said. And if anyone's easily influenced in this family, it's not you. A real laugh pushed up, then died halfway. My face stayed tired. It's not funny, I said, it's pathetic. It's both, she replied. He sounded very earnest, said words like capacity and vulnerable adult. I almost asked if he'd swallowed a legal blog. I stared at the table at a small scratch in the wood from years ago. He's building a story, I murmured, about me without me. He's trying to, she said. Whether anyone else believes it is another question. My mind slid backward, uninvited. Jason at 8 curled on the cracked office couch while I hunched over a folding table with invoices spread everywhere. The warehouse lights humming, trucks backing into bays. He'd pad out in socked feet, hair mussed. Are we poor? He'd asked once after a driver quit. We're building, I told him. That's different. He'd believed me, curled back under his thin blanket, and gone to sleep under the sound of my calculator. Now he was calling my oldest friend to ask if my brain still worked. He's not a villain, Carla said, softer now. I know you know that. I do, I said, it scraped coming out. But he's not a victim either, she added. I could hear it forming. I'm just trying to help and everyone's shutting me out. He likes that role. I rubbed my forehead. Do you think this stops with phone calls? No, she said. Men don't toss around cognitive decline for fun. If he can't get control through you, he'll try through someone over you. A judge, I said. She didn't argue. Do you want me there, she asked, if it comes to that? Yes, I said. If he's going to tell strangers who I am, I want at least one person in the room who's met me. Then let him file whatever he wants, she said. We'll meet him with paperwork, not panic. After we hung up, I set the phone on the table. A few minutes later, it buzzed, new voicemail, unknown downtown number, the preview text read. We're calling regarding a petition recently filed concerning. I didn't press play. I just watched the screen and thought. My son had stopped speaking to me and started speaking for me. And now he was inviting the court to decide which version they believed. Cook County probate wasn't grand. Beige walls, buzzing lights, a tired flag in the corner. It felt more like a DMV with grief. Victor sat on my right, neat suit, calm eyes. Alan on my left, tie straight, expression unreadable. Carla was behind us, arms folded as if she were about to audit the whole room. Across the aisle, Jason and Dana sat at the petitioner's table. Jason in a two-stiff suit, Dana in funeral black, her face arranged into concerned. The matter of the guardianship of Margaret Leland, the clerk called. Guardianship, as if I were a houseplant. We stood. Petitioner, the judge asked. Jason Leland, Your Honor, I'm her son, he said, stepping forward like that answered everything. And for Ms. Leland. Victor Han for the respondent who opposes the petition, Victor said. The judge looked at me. Ms. Leland, good morning. Good morning, Your Honors. She turned back to Jason. All right, Mr. Leland, tell me why your mother needs a guardian of her estate. He took a breath. Your Honor, my mother has always been strong-willed, but lately she's been making sudden, irrational changes, changing long-standing estate plans, removing me from power of attorney, shutting out family. She's vulnerable to manipulation from her banker and a friend. I'm just trying to protect her. Do you have any medical evidence? The judge asked. He hesitated. Not yet, but the changes in her behavior. Thank you, she cut in, Mr. Han. Victor stood. Your Honor, we contest the characterization. We've submitted a recent capacity evaluation from Ms. Leland's physician finding no impairment and a record of her ongoing, detailed involvement in her finances. The judge flipped through the file, then nodded. Let's hear from Ms. Leland. I stood. I understand my son doesn't like my decisions, I said, but I've been making complex financial decisions alone since my husband died 30 years ago. I built, ran, and sold a logistics company. I meet with my advisors regularly. I know exactly what I signed. Victor called Alan next. How long have you worked with Ms. Leland? He asked. About 20 years, Alan said. And her involvement? Active, she asks pointed questions, reads all statements, and catches details my young associates miss. In your opinion, can she manage her portfolio? She manages her portfolio better than half my under 40 clients, he said. The judge almost smiled. She looked back at Jason. Aside from disagreeing with her choices, do you have any evidence she can't understand or manage her affairs? He swallowed. She's changed everything. That's not like her. Sometimes relationships change, the judge said. That's not incapacity. Dana half rose. Your Honor, if I could just. You may sit, Mrs. Leland, the judge said sharply. Dana's eyes locked on mine, pure acid. The judge stacked the file. Guardianship is not a tool for resolving family conflicts or securing inheritance access, she said. Ms. Leland is competent. The petition is denied with prejudice. Jason flinched at the last words. The gavel came down, chairs scraped, people filed out. Victor leaned toward me. It's over, he said. I looked at my son, face pale, fury shaking in his hands, and at Dana, already recalculating. No, I thought. It wasn't over. It was just officially recorded who I was while I was still. Here to say it so that when I was gone, Jason's version would have to fight the paper trail I was about to make impossible to ignore. Victor's conference room felt like a place where lives got edited. River view, long table, too much glass. In front of me, a thick binder with my name embossed on the front. This is it, Victor said. Once you sign, this trust is irrevocable. No one reopens it after you're gone, not family, not courts. Good, I said. I'm tired of leaving doors cracked. Alan sat at the end of the table, reading his copy. Carla was beside me, red pen in hand like old times. Victor flipped to a tab, primary beneficiary. I read the line anyway, even though I knew it by heart. Primary individual beneficiary, Lucas James Leland. Distributions in stages, safeguards against outside influence. No borrowing against it, no assignments, no pledging to his parents bad ideas. Still comfortable, Victor asked. Yes, he gets time to become himself before anyone tries to spend him. Carla's mouth twitched. You're giving him what you never had, breathing room. Next tab, Jason's section, or rather the lack of it. No beneficial interest shall vest in Jason Leland. For reasons of personal ethics and peace. Victor had fought me on that phrasing. Now it sat there black and simple, not cruel, accurate. Any second thoughts, he asked. I had 30 years of first thoughts, I said. This is the last one. We moved to the charitable share, 40% of everything I'd piled up, carved out and redirected. To the grant fund and foundation as drafted, Victor said, for women over 50 starting or expanding businesses. Mission locked into the charter. No one turns it into a vanity nonprofit after you're gone. I scanned the statement. Priority to widows and primary caregivers. My own footprint turned into a doorway. The notary came in, checked my ID, slid the journal across. I signed where Victor pointed. The stamp hit the paper with soft, decisive thunks. With each signature, I felt something shifting, not losing but placing. When it was done, Victor closed the binder. "Congratulations," he said. "Your son can be as angry as he wants. Legally, he's irrelevant to this structure." Alan added, "We'll have the transfers done within the month. After that, whatever the world thinks you own is mostly an illusion." At home, I put my copies in the black lockbox and tucked it back onto the shelf. My phone buzzed. "Dana, you're doing this because you never liked me." I stared at it, then locked the phone without replying. A second text popped up almost immediately. "Lucas, they're mad. I'm proud." That one I read twice, 3 times. Outside my window, Chicago moved on sirens somewhere distant, the river dark and steady. My estate was no longer a question mark waiting for Jason's version of the story. For the first time, I realized the only person who'd actually inherited anything from me while I was still alive had just asked for a weekend, not a number. Lucas arrived on Friday like he was sneaking out of his real life. I watched from the window as he stepped out of the Uber with a backpack, a beat-up duffel, and his sketchbook clamped to his side. No rolling suitcase, no drama. I opened the door before he could knock. "Hey," he said, voice small in the hallway. "Weekend parole?" I asked. He huffed a laugh, something like that. "Shoes off, phone in the bowl," I said, pointing to the ceramic dish on the console. He blinked seriously. "House rule, you'll survive." After a second's hesitation, he dropped his phone into the bowl. The plastic-on-ceramic clack sounded like a starting pistol. The condo was quiet in the way their house never is. No TV murmuring, no notifications pinging, just the river outside and the low hum of the fridge. "You hungry?" I asked. "Always." "Good, you're on preps." In the kitchen, I handed him a cutting board and a knife, nudging a pile of bell peppers toward him. "Strips, not casualties." He smirked. "I'll try not to bleed on your counters." On the stove, onions sizzled in olive oil, the place filled with garlic, tomatoes, something warm and real. Lucas glanced around like the scene didn't quite compute. "They usually have their phones out when they cook," he said. "If they cook, mostly they just order and argue." "I don't like screens around boiling water," I said, "or around people I'm actually talking to." He kept cutting, slower now. "They said you were dramatic," he blurted. I stirred the sauce. "Did they?" "Like everything had to be a production with you," he went on, eyes on the peppers, "but you're just quiet." I let the steam fog my glasses for a second. "I stopped explaining myself when no one was listening," I said. He looked up at me, then really looked. "That's not what they said." "Yes, well," I said lightly, "I was there." We ate at the table like normal human beings, pasta, salad, bread from the oven instead of a plastic bag. No TV, no phones, just silverware and stories. "Remember your dinosaur phase?" I asked. His eyes lit. "The plastic ones you kept in your office drawer." "You used to line them up along the windowsill," I said. "One of the truckers knocked a T-Rex down and you cried like we'd lost a family member." He laughed, that loud, cracked voice kind of laugh I hadn't heard since he was 10. Later, he drifted toward the bottom cabinet, drawn like a magnet. "What's this?" he asked. "Old lives," I said, "photo albums." He pulled one out, sat cross-legged on the rug, and opened it. "That's me," he breathed. "Wow, I thought this birthday was like a weird dream." "You tried to eat the candle," I said. "We have evidence." Picture after picture, him on my shoulders at a parade, him asleep in my office, him painting something terrible on an easel while I sat behind him with a laptop, half watching, half working. "They said you were always working," he murmured, "like too busy for kid stuff." "I was working," I said, "and I brought you with me whenever I could. There's a difference." He ran his thumb over a shot of him knocked out on the cracked office couch, my hand resting on his hair, papers everywhere. "I don't remember this," he said. "I do," I answered. "You drooled on my quarterly reports." That got me a small smile and a quick swipe at his eye like he was just itchy. We turned on the gas fireplace. The fake logs glowed, but the warmth was real. He curled into the corner of the couch, knees up, chin on them. You can get your phone if you're bored, I said. He shook his head. They're probably either fighting or pretending they're fine, he said. I like this better. After a while he spoke again, voice low. They always feel on, he said. My parents, like they're playing themselves for an audience, even when nobody's there. And me, I asked, what am I doing? He thought for a beat, watching the flames. You're the only adult I don't feel fake around, he said, like I don't have to pick the right answer. Something stung behind my eyes. I looked at the fire instead of at him. That's a heavy compliment, I managed. It's the only kind I know how to give, he said. My phone buzzed on the side table, Jason's name lighting the screen, then going dark when I ignored it. Lucas watched the light fade. What are you going to do about them? He asked. This time when I looked at him, I realized he wasn't asking as a child needing reassurance. He was asking as the one Leland left, deciding whose version of me he was going to believe. We did it on a Sunday, early enough that the city was still half asleep. Lucas helped me drag the table closer to the window so we could see the river and the street below. I laid out real plates, real glasses, no centerpieces, no performance. Carla arrived first with a mid-range wine and a lopsided bouquet. I brought color and alcohol, she said. Pick your favorite. Louis and Denise came right after, my old driver and dispatcher, both older, a little grayer, exactly the same in the eyes. Boss, Louis said, hugging me. He still called me that. You upgraded. Denise winked at Lucas. You were knee-high to the copier last time I saw you, now you're desktop height. He smiled, unsure but trying. We sat. I put out roasted chicken, potatoes, vegetables, bread. The room filled with the kind of talking that happens when everyone at the table has seen each other sweaty and exhausted. Louis told the story of the first blizzard we worked through, when I shoveled snow out of the loading dock myself so a client couldn't accuse us of excuses. She was out there with a busted shovel and an attitude, he said. We were like, well, guess we're not going home. Denise jumped in, or the time she sat in a client's lobby 6 hours until he cut a check. I thought security was going to call the cops. I brought my own coffee, I said. I was considerate. Lucas watched us, fork forgotten in his hand. They never told me any of this, he said. Carla smiled. They liked the version where she just woke up rich, less pressure. Halfway through, Louis lifted his glass. To the boss, he said, who paid us on time even when she didn't pay herself. That's not good financial advice, Carla muttered. It worked, he said, nodding toward the window, the view me. Before I could deflect, Lucas cleared his throat and lifted his water glass. He said, to the people who built without shortcuts. He looked at me and didn't pretend it was easy. My chest pulled tight. We all clinked wine to water to history. At one point, Carla glanced toward the window. Guest appearance at 2 o'clock, she said softly. Jason's SUV crawled by on the street below, familiar dent on the bumper. It paused at the light in front of the building. From where we sat, he could see right into the dining room. I didn't get up, I didn't move closer to the glass. I passed Louis the potatoes. By the time I looked back, the SUV was gone. Later, when the dishes were done and Louis and Denise had left, Lucas checked his phone in the bowl. He turned the screen to me. Dana's story, their table set for 3, Lucas's chair empty. Caption, some families choose division, some rise above. Dizzy. Carla leaned in, snorted. She's still trying to curate a better ending. Lucas stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked it and dropped the phone back in the bowl like it was hot. If they make me pick, he said quietly, eyes on the window, not me, I don't think they're going to like my answer. And that's when I understood, tonight wasn't about who I'd invited. It was about who my grandson was starting to believe I'd actually been, long before anyone told him their edited version of me. Christmas morning started at 5 a.m., the way my life used to. I knocked on the guest room door. Up, I said, the potatoes need you. Lucas opened it, hair a mess, my biggest roasting pan in his hands. This is child labor, he muttered. At a women's shelter, I said, you'll live. The shelter was an old brick building on the west side, easy to ignore if you wanted to. Mariah, the director, opened the door in a Santa hat and an oversized sweatshirt. "You made it," she said, hugging me. "Kitchen-s that way, hope you brought opinions about seasoning." Lucas lifted his camera bag. "I'm filming for school," he said. "Community project, I'll stay out of the way." "Faces only if they say yes," she said. "Food doesn't get a vote." The kitchen was all steam and noise, turkeys resting, huge pots boiling, volunteers shouting over each other. I went to the mashed potato station like a woman reporting for duty. Peel, mash, butter, salt, repeat. Lucas drifted with his camera, catching hands passing trays, someone tying a kid's shoelaces, Mariah laughing as gravy sloshed onto her shoe. "They don't look sad," he said quietly, watching women tape paper snowflakes to the wall. "They look like they work here." "They do," I said. "Pity is cheap, participation is." By noon, we were serving plates. A woman with a toddler on her hip took a tray from me. "Thank you," she whispered. "Eat twice," I said. "It's Christmas." Outside afterward, snow fell in thin sheets. Carla joined us with 2 store-bought pies and an apron that read, "I have a spreadsheet for this." "Most people think revenge needs to be loud," she said as we watched Lucas film the building. "Silence is harder to forget," I replied, "especially when it's notarized." I dropped Lucas back at my place with leftovers, then went downtown one last time before the banks closed. Alan met me at the nearly empty private floor. "Final estate deposit?" he asked. I handed him the cashier's check. "After this, there's nothing left in my own name they can reach for." He processed it, turned the screen so I could see. "From a legal standpoint," he said, "you're untouchable." At home, a glossy envelope sat in my mail, Jason and Dana's holiday card. I didn't open it. I wrote "return to sender" across the front in thick black ink and dropped it back downstairs. When I came up, Lucas pointed to a brown paper package on the coffee table. "Some lady dropped that off," he said. "Maya." Inside was a shadow box, my first company badge, a toy truck, a scrap of blueprint, a photo of me in front of the warehouse. On a metal plaque at the bottom, "The founder. The builder. The wall." Lucas traced the glass. "That's you," he said, "like the real you." And as I looked at it, I realized Jason could still tell whatever story he wanted. But from now on, the only people who mattered already had proof hanging on their walls of who I really was. Carla showed up with her laptop, a manila folder, and the expression of someone about to close a quarter. "Today," she said, dropping everything on my table, "we make sure your son's favorite phrase, 'I didn't know,' never works again." On her screen, a simple spreadsheet, document, location, access. "Digital first," she said, "then paper. Jason can't stumble into what doesn't live on your kitchen counter." We went line by line. Encrypted drive 1, trust, will, foundation charter, medical evals, guardianship denial. Encrypted drive 2, statements, closing letters, transfer confirmations. Password manager, updated, master passphrase written in exactly 2 places, Victor's sealed file and mine. "Could he ever get into this?" I asked. Carla snorted. "If he ever manages to hack this setup, I'll leave him my pension out of respect." When the digital side was done, she slid a yellow pad toward me. "Letters," she said, "evidence not therapy, Jason's first." I stared at the blank page, then began. "Dear Jason." I didn't describe feelings, I described events. The restaurant where he told me to stop acting rich. The night he logged into my accounts. The call to Carla about my cognitive health. The guardianship petition. The way he introduced himself at Alan's office as if I were already fading. Dates, places, words. At the end, I wrote, "I have excluded you from further inheritance for reasons of personal ethics and peace." No apology, no flourish, just the truth filed. Carla read it, nodded once. "Dry as toast," she said, "perfect." Then I picked up a fresh sheet. "Dear Lucas." This one I didn't rush. I told him about the warehouse couch, the dinosaur toys on my office window, the first time he fell asleep on my lap while I calculated payroll. I told him what I'd built and why I'd chosen to protect him from ever being used as a bridge to my money. You will hear different versions of who I was, I wrote. This one is mine. When I finished, I didn't hand it to Carla. Go get him, I said. Lucas read at the table, lips moving slightly, eyebrows pulling together, relaxing, pulling together again. Near the end, his eyes went wet. He blinked hard. I won't be like him, he said. The words came out small, furious. I covered his hand. Don't be like me either, I said. Be kinder, but be strong. He huffed a shaky laugh. You really suck at inspirational quotes. Good thing I never went into merch, I said. We sealed Jason's letter, Lucas's letter, and Carla's one-page estate summary into a thick envelope. At the neighborhood bank, we slid it into my safety deposit box beside the flash drive and deed copies. The metal door shut with a soft clank that felt louder than any argument. That box, Carla said as we stepped back onto the sidewalk, holds the one thing he'll never get from you. What's that? I asked. The last word, she said. That night lying in bed, I realized. He could still talk about me all he wanted, but when I was gone, the only story the law would listen to was the one I'd already told, in my own handwriting. Carla came over looking like tax season, no makeup, flats, laptop bag. Today, she said, dropping a manila folder on my table, we make sure your son's favorite excuse, I didn't know, dies a legal death. On her laptop, 3 columns, document, location, access. Digital first, she said, paper is for sentiment, protection lives behind passwords. We mapped everything. Encrypted drive 1, trust, will, foundation, charter, medical eval, guardianship denial. Encrypted drive 2, statements, closing letters, confirmations. Password manager, updated master phrase written in exactly 2 places, Victor's file and 1 sealed envelope of mine. Nowhere Jason could accidentally find. Think he could ever crack this? I asked. If he does, Carla said, I'll leave him my pension out of professional respect. Then she slid a yellow legal pad toward me. Letters, she said, evidence not therapy, Jason's first. Staring at the blank page felt worse than any board report I ever wrote. Then I put my pen down and treated it like exactly that, a report. Dear Jason. I didn't write how I felt, I wrote what he did. The restaurant where he told me to stop acting rich. The night he logged into my accounts from his Mac. The call to Carla about my cognitive health. The guardianship petition. The scene at Alan's office, introducing himself like my handler. Dates, places, quotes, no adjectives. I ended with, I have excluded you from further inheritance for reasons of personal ethics and peace. No apology. Carla read it, nodded. Dry as toast, she said, courts love toast. Then a fresh page. Dear Lucas. This one I didn't rush. I wrote about the warehouse couch, the dinosaur toys on my office window, his small hand on my calculator as I did payroll. I told him what I'd built, what I'd changed, and why he was protected from being anyone's bridge to my money. You will hear different versions of who I was, I wrote. This one is mine. When I finish. I didn't hand it to Carla. Go get him, I said. Lucas read at the table, lips moving, eyes tightening and softening in turns. Near the end, they went wet. I won't be like him, he said, voice rough. I put my hand over his. Don't be like me either, I said. Be kinder, but be strong. He gave a shaky laugh. You're terrible at motivational speeches. Good, I said. I'm not running a cult. We sealed Jason's letter, Lucas's letter, and Carla's one-page estate summary into a thick envelope. At the neighborhood bank, the clerk led us to the vault. We slid it into my safety deposit box beside the flash drive and deed copies. The metal door shut with a soft clank that felt louder than any argument. That box, Carla said as we stepped back into the cold air, holds the only version of you the law will believe when you're gone. For the first time, I felt it clearly. Jason could still rewrite me in his head, but the file that mattered now lived in a place he'd never, ever have a key to. Alan's building felt different that morning. Not smaller, exactly, just neutral. For the first time in years, I walked through the marble lobby without rehearsing answers in my head. 14 Ms. Leland, the guard asked. For the last time, I said, taking the badge. On the private floor, the receptionist smiled like someone who remembered the day my son got politely escorted out. "Good morning, Ms. Leland. Mr. Hodge is ready for you." Alan stood when I walked in, jacket off, sleeves rolled. A single thin folder sat on his desk. "This won't take long," he said. "We're just closing the circle." I sat, the river stretched gray behind him. He opened the folder. "The trust is fully funded," he said. "Title transfers are complete, beneficiaries are as directed. Lucas's protections are airtight, staged distributions, no assignments, no way for your son to leverage him." I nodded. "The foundation. First grant cycle is scheduled," he said. "Criteria locked, women over 50, widows, caregivers, the board S in place. No one can quietly pivot it into a vanity project." I watched his finger move down the page. "Powers of attorney are current. Jason is removed everywhere. Our internal notes state that no information is to be shared with him under any circumstances without Carla or Victor present." He closed the folder. "From a financial and legal standpoint, everything is complete. There are no loose ends. It's yours, all of it." The words landed in a place deeper than the numbers ever did. "It always was," I said. "I just needed to remember that." We stood. I shook his hand. "If he ever comes here again," I asked. "Reception will be very polite," Alan said, "and very unhelpful." I laughed, thanked him, and walked out, not as a client under siege, not as someone's mother being handled, but as the only person who had ever really owned what lived in those files. Outside, the cold hit my face clean. I walked with no particular purpose, just letting the city move around me, buses hissing, cabs honking, a kid sliding on a patch of ice and laughing. On the bridge, my phone buzzed. It was Jason. Lucas had sent a photo, me at the shelter, mid-laugh, ladle in hand, under it. "They like my project, but I made it for me. You made me proud to come from you." I stopped, fingers numb for a different reason. "The feeling's mutual," I wrote back. "Keep building your own things, I'll be watching." As I slipped the phone away, I thought of every office I'd fought my way into, banks, courts, boardrooms, and the one my son still believed he'd stroll into someday as if it were his by default. He never would. My son told me to stop acting rich, so I stopped acting, and he watched me leave him behind, one document at a time.